My wife got pulled over for speeding. The officer ran her license, then motioned me over. Sir, you need to listen carefully. Don't go home, find somewhere safe, he said. I was stunned. Why? I asked. He hesitated. I can't explain right now. It's horrifying. Then he handed me a note. When I opened it, the truth inside shocked me to my core. Imagine pouring your entire soul into building a life, brick by painstaking brick, only for a single, whispered warning to shatter it all. That's what happened to Wade, and the betrayal it uncovered was so cold, so calculated, it would make your blood run icy. Wade, a man who'd clawed his way out of the dirt, was 42. He had 3 successful auto shops, a mansion in the hills, and a wife, Jessica, he genuinely thought loved him. He believed he had it all, and he never forgot where he came from, never forgot those who'd helped him along the way. But one autumn evening, his entire world started to unravel in the most unthinkable way. Jessica, his wife, announced she was going to visit her sister, Gail, for their usual wine and movie night. Nothing out of the ordinary, she often stayed over. He kissed her goodbye, and for some strange reason, he just noticed it. The way her makeup was meticulously done for a casual night in. It was a tiny detail, but it burrowed into his mind. Just 3 hours later, a cold dread coiled in Wade's stomach as he found himself following a patrol car on Highway 47. Jessica's BMW had been pulled over. For speeding. The woman was the most cautious driver he knew, almost annoyingly so. Something was profoundly wrong. Officer Seth Mayer, a young guy, maybe early 30s, with that earnest, still believing in justice face, ran Jessica's license. Wade watched, transfixed, as the officer's expression shifted. From routine boredom to something truly grave. His eyes flicked from the screen to Jessica, then to Wade, with a look that just screamed pity. Sir, Officer Mayer called out, his steps hesitant. I need you to listen to me. Do not go home tonight. Get somewhere safe. Wade's blood ran cold. What? Why? What was happening? The officer glanced around nervously, then pressed a folded note into Wade's palm. I can't explain. It's horrifying. Legally, I can't do anything, but his voice dropped to a chilling whisper, that woman isn't who you think she is, and neither is the man waiting at your house. Wade's entire world just tilted. What man? Read the note tonight. Don't confront anyone. Just be smart about this. Officer Mayer handed Jessica back her license with a professional smile, but Wade, he caught the flicker of disgust that crossed his face. As the patrol car drove away, Jessica returned to their car, chattering nervously about the officer being weird, asking strange questions. Wade just nodded absently, the note burning like acid in his pocket. He suggested they get dinner before heading to Gail's place, desperately buying himself time. Time to think. Time to process. In the restaurant bathroom, with shaking hands, Wade unfolded that paper. What he read wasn't just a note, it was a death sentence to his past. Your wife has been seeing Patrick Mullins for 8 months. Tonight, he's in your house going through your safe. She gave him the combination. There's more. Much more. She's been planning this for years. I'm sorry. I wish I could do more. A friend who remembers you helped his family when no one else would. Patrick Mullins. Wade knew that name. The charmer, the quick-fingered thief he'd fired 5 years ago from his first shop, but given a second chance, never pressing charges. And this was Patrick's thank you. But Jessica? His Jessica? 15 years. They'd built everything. His mother's cancer, her father's passing, his bankruptcy. How could she? He stared at the words until they blurred. He folded the note, a mask of careful composure clamped on his face, and walked back to the table. Jessica was texting someone, her phone angled away from him. He'd never noticed it before. Now, it screamed at him. Everything okay, honey? She asked, not even looking up. Perfect, Wade replied. And for the first time in his marriage, he meant the exact opposite. The drive to Gail's was pure, unadulterated torture. Jessica, oblivious, kept checking her phone. Wade, meanwhile, was mentally cataloging every single lie. Every late night at work, every girl's weekend. The foundation of his life wasn't just cracking, it was vaporizing. It revealed there had never been a foundation at all. Just an illusion. When they finally arrived at Gail's, Wade claimed he had a work emergency and needed to head back. Jessica's relief was so palpable it was almost comical. She kissed him goodbye with the same lips that had probably been kissing Patrick Mullins. Wade had to clench his fists just to keep from grabbing her throat right there. But Wade? Wade didn't build an empire by acting on impulse. He'd learned patience from his father, strategy from his grandfather, and a cold, hard ruthlessness from the streets that had tried to chew him up and spit him out. If Jessica and Patrick thought they could destroy everything he'd built, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. He drove towards downtown, not home, and a plan began to form. They thought they were playing him. They had no idea they'd just started a game with a man who simply never lost. Wade checked into the Riverside Hotel, paying cash, a habit from his youth that legitimate success had never quite erased. From his room on the 5th floor, he had a clear view of his house, 3 miles away, a beacon of pure betrayal. His first call was to Oliver Doyle, his lawyer. Oliver owed Wade. Big time. Wade had protected Oliver's family once when no one else would. That kind of debt? It doesn't just disappear. Oliver, I need surveillance equipment, professional grade, delivered to my room within 2 hours. And I need a complete file on Patrick Mullins, employment, criminal record, finances, everything. Oliver paused, then replied, "It's almost midnight, Wade." 2 hours, Oliver. At 12:47 a.m., a figure emerged from the side door of Wade's house. His side door. The one only family used. Even from a distance, Wade recognized Patrick's distinctive swagger. He was carrying a bag that looked suspiciously like Wade's emergency cash stash. Wade's phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. "Staying at Gail's tonight. She's having a hard time. Love you." He didn't respond. Oliver arrived at 2:15 a.m., carrying a case straight out of a spy movie. GPS trackers, audio surveillance, micro cameras, and everything on Mullins. He paused, sensing the shift. "Wade, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking of protecting what's mine." Wade's voice was flat and motionless. "The legal system? It protects people like them. I protect people like me." Oliver left without another word. Wade spent the next hour dissecting Patrick Mullins's life. The man was a textbook narcissist, a professional seducer of married women, draining their accounts, disappearing before consequences caught up. He'd done it in 3 states, always just skirting the law. But Patrick had made a crucial error this time. He'd chosen Wade Wu's wife. Patrick wasn't just a thief, he was a pattern. Seduce the wife, drain the accounts, disappear. But this time he'd picked the wrong target. Patrick had never faced real consequences. Wade smiled then, a cold, predatory smile. Patrick Mullins was about to learn. By dawn, a plan crystallized. He'd give Patrick exactly what he wanted, full access. But like a spider weaving its web, that access would become Patrick's inescapable trap. Wade's phone rang. "Jessica." "Hi, honey. How did your emergency go?" "Fine. Just a problem with the Morrison contract." The lie came easily now. "How's Gail?" "Better. Listen, I might need to stay another night or 2. She's really struggling." "Of course. Take care of your sister." Wade hung up, then looked up Gail Mintosh's number. Time to test Jessica's elaborate fiction. "Gail? It's Wade. Just wanted to check on you, make sure you're okay." The confusion in Gail's voice was answer enough. She was fine. Hadn't seen Jessica in 2 weeks. Wade hung up. Another lie, added to the mental ledger. Jessica hadn't just betrayed him. She'd crafted an entire alternate reality. The sister visits, the work emergencies, the girls' weekends. How much of her life had been a damn fiction? But the streets had taught Wade one thing. People who live in fantasies die when reality comes calling. It was time to introduce Patrick and Jessica to their new reality. Wade returned home that afternoon, moving through his house like a crime scene investigator. Everything looked normal, but now he knew what to look for. The safe in his study had been opened, closed. Professional. He checked the hidden camera he'd installed years ago. The timestamp showed Patrick Mullins at 11:23 p.m., photographing documents, copying files, pocketing Wade's emergency cash. But the most chilling moment? Patrick held up Wade's wedding photo, smiled at it like it was a private joke, then carefully placed it face down. That wasn't just theft, it was a deliberate, intimate violation. Wade watched it 3 times. Then, he made a decision. A decision that would have consequences far beyond anything Jessica and Patrick could imagine. He called his old friend, Clarence Coombs. Clarence ran a security consulting firm, polite talk for handling problems the law couldn't touch. Clarence owed Wade, too. Deeply. "Clarence, I need a full team. Surveillance, counter-surveillance, asset protection. And people who understand that some problems require permanent solutions." "How permanent, Wade?" "I'll let you know." Within hours, Wade's house was wired with equipment that made Oliver's setup look like toys. But Clarence provided something more valuable, information. "Your boy Patrick has debts," Clarence reported over dinner at a truck stop. "Serious debts. To serious people. Russian import-export specialists. He needs a big score, or he's in deep trouble." "How much?" $250,000, plus interest that compounds daily. Pieces clicked into place. Jessica wasn't just a target. She was Patrick's lifeline. "It gets better," Clarence continued. "Your wife's financial activity? She's been moving money for months. Small amounts, different accounts, just under the radar. Someone taught her how to wash it." "How much?" "Best estimate? $400,000. Over the past year. From your business accounts, your savings, even your retirement fund." Wade's vision went red. $400,000. Years of 18-hour days, endless sacrifices. His life systematically dismantled. There's more, Clarence said. The money didn't just disappear. It's been invested. Real estate in Patrick's name. Offshore accounts. They've been building a future together, Wade. A future financed by your past. Wade set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. I want to know everything. Every account, every purchase, every lie. I want to know what they eat for breakfast and what they dream about. Then Wade met Clarence's eyes, and Clarence saw something that made him glad they were on the same side. Then I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That night, Wade lay in his bed, the bed he'd shared with Jessica for 15 years, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he would begin implementing a plan that would make Patrick and Jessica's betrayal look like a child's game. They thought they were stealing his life. They were about to discover that some men couldn't be stolen from. They could only be awakened. His phone buzzed. Jessica. Miss you. Home tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you. Wade typed back. Can't wait either. We need to talk about our future. For once, he was telling the truth. Wade woke before dawn, going through his morning routine like a man preparing for war. Coffee, shower, workout. Then, a careful review of the night's surveillance footage. Jessica had returned home at 2:47 a.m., moving through the house like a ghost, checking her phone. She even smelled Wade's pillow to see if he'd been there. When she finally woke at 9:30, Wade was already gone. Not to work, but to begin phase 1. First, Maria Gamble, a PI he trusted. I need complete financial profiles on these two, he'd said, sliding photos across her desk. Every account, every transaction, legal, illegal. He'd placed $50,000 in cash on her desk. How much time? 72 hours. You have 48. Next, his accountant, Hal Stevens. Hal, I need you to restructure everything. Transfer shop ownership to a new corporation. Move all liquid assets to accounts Jessica can't access. Create a paper trail that shows the businesses are struggling. Hal's face went pale. Wade, if you're divorcing, this is asset hiding. The courts won't be involved. Wade's tone was flat. I'm not getting divorced, Hal. I'm getting justice. The sheer, cold difference in his voice made Hal stop asking questions. By afternoon, Wade had visited each of his shops. Ostensibly for inspections, but really to plant seeds. He spoke privately with key employees, asking about loyalty, about facing threats, about keeping secrets. He knew loyalty couldn't be bought, but it could be cultivated. They all remembered his kindness. Christmas bonuses, promotions, second chances. By evening, he had a network of allies. The final stop, James Hernandez, a business consultant who solved unsolvable problems. They met at a private club. I have a situation, Wade began, that requires a delicate touch. James listened without interruption. When Wade finished, James was quiet. What's your endgame, Wade? James asked, sensing the depth of it. Complete destruction, Wade replied. I want them to lose everything. Everything. I want them to understand what it feels like to have their entire life revealed as a lie. And if they fight back? Wade's smile was cold. They're welcome to try. James nodded slowly. This isn't just about money, is it? No. It's about respect. Consequences. Teaching two people there are men who can't be stolen from, only awakened. He drove home to find Jessica cooking dinner, humming, playing the devoted wife. She kissed him. He suppressed the urge to grab her throat. Instead, he played his own role, the trusting husband. How is work? She asked, her voice bright with false concern. Interesting, Wade replied. I've been thinking about expanding. A fourth shop. Her fork paused. That sounds expensive. I'm looking at a perfect location, but it would require a significant investment. Money to liquidate some assets to make it work. He watched her carefully. The flash of panic in Jessica's eyes was so brief, so fleeting, that anyone else would have missed it. But Wade saw it, cataloged it, filed it away for later. Maybe we should discuss any major financial decisions together, Jessica said carefully. Of course, Wade replied. After all, we're partners in everything. That night, as Jessica slept beside him, Wade lay awake, planning the systematic destruction of two people who had made the mistake of thinking Wade was just another mark to be conned. They were about to learn that some men weren't victims. They were predators. The call came at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after Wade set his plan in motion. Maria Gamble's voice was tight with excitement and disgust. Wade, you need to see this. My office. An hour. Wade arrived to find Maria's desk covered. Financial documents, photos, bank records. A betrayal far deeper than he'd imagined. Your wife is smart, Maria began, but Patrick Mullins is smarter. And greedier. She spread bank statements. Jessica's been moving your money for 14 months, not 8. But here's the interesting part. Patrick's been skimming her money too. Every account she set up with your stolen funds? He's been taking his cut. She thinks they have 400,000 together. He's actually got closer to 600, and 300 of that is hidden even from her. Wade felt a cold satisfaction. Patrick was planning to disappear. Maria continued. Patrick signed a 2-year lease on a house in Jessica's name, using her social security and a forged signature. If things go south, she's liable for 24 months of rent on a place she's never seen. Where? Costa Rica. Non-extradition jurisdiction for financial crimes under $50,000 per incident. Patrick wasn't just stealing from Wade, he was setting Jessica up to take the fall for everything. There's more, Maria said. Patrick's been recording everything. Phone calls, meetings, even intimate encounters. He's got enough evidence to absolutely destroy Jessica, implicate her in everything, while he walks away looking like the manipulated victim. Wade felt something that might have been admiration for Patrick's thoroughness if it wasn't aimed at destroying Wade's life. But Patrick had made one crucial error. He'd assumed Wade was just another mark. I need copies of everything, Wade said. And I need you to do one more thing. That afternoon, Wade implemented the next phase. He called Jessica, asking her to meet him for lunch at their favorite restaurant, where they'd had their first date 16 years ago. She arrived looking beautiful and nervous, checking her phone. I've been thinking about our future, Wade began, echoing his text. What do you mean? Wade pulled out a folder. Set it between them. I think it's time for us to make some changes. Big changes. Jessica's face went pale as she opened it. The first document, a property listing for a house in Costa Rica. Wade, what is this? Our new life. I've been looking into retiring early. Moving somewhere we can really be ourselves. He watched her face. I found this place through a business associate. Patrick Mullins. You remember Patrick, don't you? He used to work for me. Her hand trembled. I don't understand. Patrick's been helping me research expatriate living, taxes, property laws, the best ways to transfer assets internationally without triggering government oversight. Wade's voice was casual. He's got quite a bit of experience with international finance. The color drained from her face. Wade was describing exactly what she and Patrick had been doing. But he was describing it like it was his idea, like he was planning to do it legally. Wade, I don't think. Patrick suggested we liquidate most of our domestic assets and reinvest them offshore. He estimates we could have everything transferred within a month if we move quickly. Jessica's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and Wade saw her face go from pale to gray. Whatever Patrick just sent her, it wasn't good news. I need to go, she said suddenly, closing the folder. I'm not feeling well. Of course. Take the folder with you. Look it over, and we can discuss it tonight. Jessica hurried out, clutching the folder like it was her own death warrant. In a way, it was. Now she had a choice. Warn Patrick and risk exposing their entire scam, or stay quiet and hope Wade's interest in Costa Rica was just a bizarre coincidence. Either way, Patrick would see the writing on the wall. He'd cut her loose. The trap was set. Wade's phone buzzed. A text from Clarence. Package delivered. Phase 3 was ready. That evening, Wade came home to find Jessica pacing the kitchen. The Costa Rica folder open on the counter, her phone pressed to her ear. She hung up quickly when she saw him. Everything okay? Wade asked. Fine. Just work stuff. Her smile was strained. I looked over those documents. Residences, your financial accounts, and your communications. In approximately 10 minutes, federal agents are going to raid Patrick's apartment and Jessica's office. This was another lie, but Wade counted on panic to override logic. What they'll find is evidence of systematic fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. They'll also find evidence that Jessica has been embezzling from her own company to fund this operation. Jessica's face went utterly ashen. She was an accountant for a major firm. Financial irregularities? That would end her career, even if it didn't land her in jail. Here's what's going to happen, Wade continued. Patrick, you're going to transfer every penny you've stolen from me back to my accounts. All of it, including the money you've hidden from Jessica. And if I refuse? Wade's smile was cold. Then you'll find out what happens when you steal from someone who grew up in neighborhoods where thieves didn't live long enough to repeat their mistakes. Patrick's bravado cracked. You're threatening me? I'm promising you. Wade turned to Jessica. And you, my dear wife, are going to sign divorce papers that leave you with exactly what you brought to this marriage 15 years ago. Nothing. Wade, please. You had 15 years to be honest with me. 1,000 opportunities to be the woman I thought I married. Instead, you chose to be a thief and a whore. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Wade stood and placed $500 on the table. This covers dinner. You have 24 hours to comply with my terms. After that, other people will handle the situation, and they won't be as generous as I'm being. Wade walked away, leaving Jessica and Patrick to face the wreckage of their carefully planned betrayal. Behind him, he could hear them starting to argue. Accusations flying. The sound of two predators turning on each other when their prey proved too dangerous to handle. The real revenge was just beginning. Wade didn't go home that night. Instead, he drove to his first auto shop, the one he'd built with borrowed money and 18-hour days when he was 25 and hungry enough to fight for every dollar. He sat in his office until dawn, watching surveillance footage of Patrick and Jessica's increasingly desperate phone calls and text messages. By 3 a.m., Patrick had attempted to access 3 different bank accounts, only to discover that Clarence's people had frozen all his assets pending a federal investigation, a fiction that would hold long enough for Wade's purposes. Jessica had called in sick to work and spent 2 hours frantically searching her apartment for documents that would prove her innocence of crimes she was actually guilty of. Patrick called Wade. "I'm listening. This has gone too far. Let's work something out." Wade smiled. Desperation always sounded the same, regardless of who was wearing it. "I gave you my terms yesterday. Have you complied? I can't transfer money from frozen accounts. Then you'd better figure out how to unfreeze them permanently. I want you to understand that stealing from Wade was the worst mistake of your life. And I want you to spend whatever time you have left remembering that lesson. And Jessica?" Wade's voice went cold. "Jessica is my wife. What happens to her is between her and me." He hung up and immediately called Clarence. "How long until Patrick cracks completely?" "He's already cracking. My boys picked up some interesting chatter this morning. Seems Patrick's been in contact with those Russian friends of his, trying to negotiate more time to pay his debts. And Russians aren't known for their patience. Word is they're sending someone to discuss the matter with Patrick personally." Wade felt a dark satisfaction settle in his chest. Patrick's past was catching up with him at exactly the moment when his future was disappearing. Perfect timing. Make sure the Russians know where to find him. Already handled. Wade's second call was to Oliver Doyle. "I need divorce papers drawn up. Adultery, fraud, theft of marital assets. I want everything protected under irreconcilable differences with evidence of criminal activity. Wade, if you have evidence of criminal activity, you should involve law enforcement. Law enforcement moves too slowly. I need this handled privately. What about Jessica? She'll fight this." Wade's laugh was humorless. "Jessica is going to be too busy trying to stay out of prison to fight anything." By noon, Wade had confirmation that Patrick had attempted to flee the state, only to discover that his passport had been flagged for suspicious financial activity. TSA had detained him for 3 hours before releasing him with a warning that his travel was being monitored. Wade's third call of the day was to Jessica. "We need to meet." Her voice was shaky, defeated. "I'll sign whatever you want." "Good. My lawyer's office. 3 p.m. Wade. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am sorry." Wade considered this for a moment. "No," he said, his voice flat. "You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." The divorce proceedings took less than an hour. Jessica signed every document without reading them, her hands shaking with exhaustion and fear. When it was over, she looked at Wade with tears in her eyes. "What happens now? Now you learn to live with the consequences of your choices. Will you? Will you press charges?" Wade studied his ex-wife's face. He saw, perhaps for the first time, the person she actually was beneath the mask she'd worn for 15 years. Weak, selfish, willing to destroy anyone to get what she wanted, but ultimately, a small person who had made the mistake of trying to prey on someone stronger. "No," he said finally. "You're not worth the effort." The relief on Jessica's face was pathetic. She actually thought she was getting away with it. Wade walked out of the lawyer's office a free man, but he wasn't finished. Not yet. That evening, he sat in his study and made one final call. "Clarence, it's time." "You sure about this, Wade?" "I'm sure." 2 hours later, Wade received a text with an address and a time. He drove to a warehouse district he'd known well in his youth. Places where problems were solved permanently and questions weren't asked. Patrick Mullins was waiting for him, tied to a chair in the center of an empty building. His face was bruised, his clothes torn, and his eyes held the desperate terror of a man who had finally realized the game was over. "Wade," Patrick gasped as Wade approached. "Thank God. These men, they're insane. They think I owe them money." Wade pulled up a chair and sat down facing Patrick. "You do owe them money. $250,000, plus interest." "That's impossible. I never borrowed from Russians." "No, but you stole money that was going to be used to pay them back." Wade's voice was calm, conversational. "You see, Patrick, I've been doing business with Arturo Haynes for years. Back when I needed investors for my first shop, Arturo connected me with some international financiers. Russians, as it happens." Patrick's face went white. "You paid them back years ago." "I did, with money that technically belonged to you since you'd stolen it from me," Wade smiled. "Which means you owe them the money I used to pay my debt, with 15 years of compound interest." The math was fictional, but Patrick was too terrified to question it. Sometimes the most effective lies were the ones that sounded just plausible enough. "I don't have that kind of money." "I know. That's why we're here." Wade stood and walked to where Clarence was waiting with 2 other men Patrick probably recognized from his nightmares. "Patrick Mullins," Wade said formally. "You made the mistake of thinking you could steal from me. You made the mistake of thinking you could seduce my wife and destroy my life. Most importantly, you made the mistake of thinking I was just another mark to be conned and discarded. Wade nodded to Clarence. You were wrong. The last thing Patrick Mullins ever saw was Wade Wu walking away, leaving him to face the very real consequences of a life built on destroying other people's trust. Wade didn't watch what happened to Patrick Mullins. He didn't need to. Some lessons were more effective when they remained private between teacher and student, and Wade had taught enough lessons in his youth to know that Patrick would understand the message clearly. 3 days later, Patrick's disappearance made the local news as a missing person case. His apartment abandoned, his car found at the airport. No one was surprised. People like him disappeared all the time. Wade felt no guilt. Men who made careers out of destroying lives rarely lived long enough to enjoy retirement. Wade had simply accelerated the inevitable. But Jessica was different. Wade found her on a Thursday evening, sitting alone in the same restaurant where they'd had their confrontation with Patrick. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of consequences she'd never imagined. I heard about Patrick, she said without looking up when Wade sat down. Did you? The police came by my apartment yesterday, asking questions about his financial dealings. They asked about you. She finally met Wade's eyes. What did you tell them? The truth. That Patrick used to work for you. That we'd met recently about some business opportunity. That I hadn't seen him since. Wade nodded. Smart. Jessica laughed bitterly. Too little, too late for smart. They sat in silence, two people who'd shared 15 years of marriage, looking at each other like strangers, which, Wade realized, they probably always had been. I never meant for it to go this far, Jessica said finally. Yes, you did. You just didn't think you'd get caught. No, I mean, I never meant to hurt you. Not really. Wade studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. What he saw instead was the same self-serving rationalization he'd heard from every criminal, the belief that wanting something badly enough justified taking it. You took out a life insurance policy on me, Jessica, he reminded her, his voice low. $2 million. She flinched. It wasn't what you think. Then what was it? Wade pressed. Just insurance, in case something happened naturally. He watched her, a predator assessing his prey. You weren't going to. She couldn't finish the sentence. But you thought about it, Wade finished for her. The silence was her confession. What happens now? Jessica asked. Now you disappear. You take whatever money you manage to hide from both Patrick and me, and you start over somewhere. I'll never see you again. And if I don't? Wade's smile was cold. Then you'll discover that Patrick wasn't the only one who owed dangerous people money. Jessica's face went ashen. Wade, please, you have 1 week. Wade stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. If you ever contact me, if you ever try to come back, if I even hear your name mentioned in this town again, what happened to Patrick will look like mercy compared to what happens to you. He walked away. He didn't look back. Jessica sat there, utterly alone, left to contemplate the ruins of a life she'd destroyed through her own venomous greed. Outside, Wade sat in his car for several minutes. He felt something that might have been sadness, if he were the type of man who indulged in such emotions. 15 years of marriage gone, not just ended, but revealed to have been a lie from the beginning. But Wade had survived worse losses. He'd survived poverty, violence, betrayal by people he trusted more than Jessica. He'd built an empire from nothing once before, and he could do it again. His phone buzzed, a text from Clarence. Package handled, no loose ends. Wade deleted the message and started his car. Tomorrow, he would begin rebuilding his life, free of those who never deserved his trust. It would be different this time. Better. Because Wade had learned something valuable. The only person he could truly trust was himself. And you know what? Sometimes, that was more than enough. 6 months later, Wade stood in the office of his fourth auto shop. The business had expanded faster than projected, fueled by insurance money from Patrick's theft and the liquidated assets from his divorce settlement. Wade's legal troubles were minimal. Oliver Doyle structured everything perfectly. Jessica's signature on various documents made her the legal owner of several debts she'd never known about, while Wade emerged clean and profitable. The new shop was in the part of town where Wade grew up, a neighborhood that had gotten worse since he left. But Wade remembered what it felt like to be young and hungry, looking for a chance. He hired locally, paid well, and asked no questions about his employees' backgrounds, as long as they showed up and worked hard. Clarence Coombs stopped by every few weeks, ostensibly for security, but actually to provide updates. Jessica relocated to Phoenix, Clarence reported during one visit. Working as a bookkeeper, low profile, no contact with anyone from her past. Good. You want to keep tabs on her? Wade considered. Jessica was broken, exiled, living in fear of consequences that might never come. It was a fitting punishment, and it was complete. She posed no further threat. No, let her go. What about the other matter? Clarence continued. Officer Seth Mayer, the one who warned you about Jessica and Patrick. Wade had been wondering when this conversation would come. Mayer had risked his career, and Wade didn't forget debts. What about him? His daughter needs surgery. Leukemia. Insurance won't cover the experimental treatment that might save her life. Wade was quiet for a moment. He remembered another young police officer who faced similar circumstances years ago. How much? 200,000. Handle it. Anonymous donation through one of the medical charities. Consider it done. After Clarence left, Wade walked through his shops, speaking with employees, maintaining the personal connections that made his business more than just another repair service. Loyalty was built on countless small interactions, not grand gestures. His phone rang. An unknown number. Wade Wu. Mr. Wu, this is Detective Angela Maddox with the County Sheriff's Department. I'm investigating the disappearance of Patrick Mullins. I was hoping you might have a few minutes to answer some questions. A familiar calm settled over Wade. Of course, Detective. When would be convenient? Actually, I'm in the area now. Could I stop by your shop? I'll be here. Detective Maddox arrived 20 minutes later, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes. Wade met her in his office, offering coffee, projecting the helpful attitude of a successful businessman with nothing to hide. I understand Patrick Mullins used to work for you, she began. Yes, about 5 years ago. I had to let him go for theft. Did you press charges? No. It was a relatively small amount, and I believe in second chances. Detective Maddox made notes. When was the last time you saw Mr. Mullins? About 2 months ago. He contacted me about some business opportunity involving international real estate. We met for dinner with my wife, ex-wife, to discuss it. How did that meeting go? Wade's expression darkened slightly. Detective, I discovered during that meeting that Patrick had been having an affair with my wife and stealing money from my business accounts. I told him to stay away. I called the police and pressed charges for theft and fraud. I should have done that 5 years ago. Detective Maddox studied Wade's face. Your ex-wife confirmed this version of events? I'm sure she did. You went through a divorce recently. Yes. Discovering your wife is cheating tends to end a marriage. Where were you on the night of March 15th? Wade pretended to think. Home, alone. My ex-wife had moved out by then. I ordered Chinese food and watched television. I probably have receipts if you need them. That won't be necessary right now. Detective Maddox closed her notebook. Mr. Wu, do you have any idea what might have happened to Patrick Mullins? Wade was quiet for a moment, as if considering. Detective, Patrick Mullins was a professional con artist who made a career out of stealing from people and disappearing before facing consequences. Based on what I learned about him during our investigation, he had enemies in several states and owed money to some very unforgiving people. What kind of people? The kind who don't call the police when someone fails to pay their debts. Detective Maddox nodded slowly. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wu. If you think of anything else, please call me. She handed Wade her card and left. Wade waited until her card disappeared, then called Clarence. We just had a visitor. I know. She's been asking questions around town. Very thorough, but she's not finding anything useful. Because there's nothing to find. Because we're very good at our jobs. Wade smiled. Good. That evening, Wade sat in his study, the same room where he discovered Jessica's betrayal 6 months ago. The safe now contained different documents, insurance policies that protected only him, bank statements showing healthy balances he controlled completely, and business contracts that would ensure his security for years to come. He thought about Jessica, probably lying awake in some cheap apartment in Phoenix, wondering if every knock on the door might be someone coming to collect on debts she didn't understand. He thought about Patrick, whose final lesson in consequences had been more permanent than Wade had originally planned. Most of all, he thought about the future. Wade Wu was 43 years old, financially secure, and completely free of people who might betray him. He learned to trust carefully, to punish thoroughly. And those lessons? They were etched into his very soul. His phone buzzed, a text from Officer Seth Mayer. Mr. Wu, I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for my daughter. The doctors say the treatment is working. I'll never forget this kindness. Wade deleted the message. Some debts, he knew, were worth paying. Some favors worth returning. But from now on, Wade Wu would choose very carefully who earned his trust. And who earned his loyalty. Because Wade Wu had learned the most important lesson of all. In a world full of predators, the only way to survive was to be the apex predator. And Wade? Wade was very, very good at surviving.